I wasn't going to put out a video this week because I've just got so much going on with my own site. So instead I put a community post out where I asked people to fire in some questions and I would go in and answer. And then I thought, why don't I just answer them in video format and do it in a nice chilled out, stripped back kind of way. And so the Affiliate School Unplugged is born. So I thought I'd make a cup of tea and we'll answer your questions in as much time as it takes for me to drink it. So let's get started. So the idea behind the Affiliate School Unplugged is that it's stripped back, it's nice and simple, we've got no computers around. I've got my mobile phone just to read the questions, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on this new format, whether you like it. And this isn't going to replace the usual standard of video, this is going to supplement it, hopefully. And hopefully I can just be a little bit more down to earth and just kind of answer the questions and give you a bit of more info. Now, I've not really thought too deeply about these questions so far, so this is kind of just off the cuff, so to speak. And I've got about 8 or 9 questions and we'll see how many we can get through before I finish this mint tea. So the first question in is from Electronic Earnings, a fan of the channel, and he says, what's your internal linking strategy? So the key thing for me when it comes to internal links is that, first of all, you do it. Lots of people do neglect internal links, and I've seen quotes and stats that say an internal link is almost worth, for every 4 internal links, it's like 1 external link in terms of power. So it's definitely worthwhile doing. And really my strategy is that I do it manually. I don't use tools. I know Link Whisper is a pretty good tool if you did want to automate it, but personally I prefer to keep it manual. And really the key thing is relevance. So I don't try and insert internal links where they shouldn't really go or where it doesn't make sense for them to go, and I like to have them wrapped contextually in a sentence that makes sense for where that link is going to, if that makes sense. I have got a video on internal linking though, and I will post that in the description. The next one is from Freddie Heppel, who I think is a new subscriber to the channel, so welcome Freddie. And he says, what's your tech stack for site builds, i.e. theme, page builder, plugins, etc.? So in the last 9 months or so, I've started now building out all of my affiliate sites on using the theme GeneratePress. And the reason for that is that it's very lightweight in terms of site speed, but also there's plenty of add-ons and functionality that you can get with additional blocks and things that you can add in. And I really like it. I really like it. Now, in terms of plugins, I tend to stay pretty lightweight as much as possible. Again, GeneratePress allows you to do a lot of things, so like creating buttons and things like that. But typically, I will have an SEO plugin, and that is either Rank Math or Yoast. All-in-one SEO is okay too. Typically, I'm tending to go more towards Rank Math now, but Rank Math and Yoast are fine, and I do use both on successful sites. What else do I use? Thirsty Affiliates or Pretty Links. They're both good for link cloaking and just managing affiliate links. I've also started to use Imagify, which I did do a review on that recently, so check that out if you haven't seen that. And that's great for compressing images, and again, just really helps squeeze that little bit extra in terms of site speed. Always worth having a security plugin. WordFence is typically pretty good for that. But I did put a tweet out actually recently where I did go through my plugins and themes and stuff, and there were also some really good contributions from people. So check that out if you're not following me. The Twitter handle is @NicheJason, so I'll put that in the description too. The next one, I've not even taken a sip yet, so let's just stop for a second. Otherwise this video is going to go on forever. So the next one is from Vlad Ivanov, and he says how to create a perfect blog outline. In fact, Vlad asked this question twice. He obviously didn't like my response. My initial response was, I've just published a video on creating the perfect blog post. But the reality is, I don't think there is a perfect blog outline. Yes, you can have a fairly well optimized outline, and you can look at, and typically what I'll do with regards to that is I will look at what's ranking on page 1 and get inspiration and ideas from that, because essentially, and this is what tools like Surfer SEO are great for, is they give you an indication of what the trends are that so what is Google putting on page 1? What are they putting out? And for me, I want to be doing similar things to that. It doesn't mean that that is the only way of doing it. Now, the one other thing that I would say is worthwhile looking at is, particularly if it's a commercial piece of content, is giving the answer, or kind of the answer to the search query, as close to the top of the page as you possibly can. So let's say, for example, we were looking at best fat tyres for bikes, or best fat tyres for mountain bikes. That might have 10, 12, 15 mini reviews of various tyres. However, up at the top, you could either have a table showing the top 3, that's quite effective, but what I'm tending to lean more towards now is quick verdicts. So giving a quick snapshot verdict, maybe have a paragraph, then the snapshot verdict, and then go into the rest of your top 12, top 15, whatever. And you would still have a verdict down at the bottom, but this is one thing that Google kind of intimated they were looking for in the helpful content update, to give that answer as fast as possible, or to not make the searcher have to search for it on your page, but also it converts like crazy, and that is a video that I'm going to have coming up in the next week or 2, going into that in a little bit more detail. So hopefully, Vlad, that answers your question as you asked it twice. So the next one comes from Infinity, and he says, or she says, if your blog is hit by an algorithm, what would you do? Keep posting content to recover, or let it sit as it is? So I've had one age domain site this year that has been hit quite significantly. It was earning around, I think it was about $700 a month, maybe $1,000 a month, and it got hit. And that was fairly early on in its life. Now, I think I know the reason why, and I think it's because I went too broad, because my other age domain site has gone from strength to strength and has gone and sailed through all of the core updates and spam updates and so on. So yeah, it's what would I do? So what have I done? So what have I done with that site? I haven't continued to post to the extent that I would have done normally, purely because at the moment I'm not getting a return on that, and although it's not completely dropped and the traffic hasn't gone completely, the traffic is probably about 20% what it was. However, I am fairly confident that if I tweak the way in which I focus the content, in terms of if I can bring it back to focusing on one tighter niche, and then maybe build out those niches, the other niches over time, then I think that can recover. There's no real difference to that site and any of my others in terms of the quality of content, the way the site's been built, the backlink building, and so on. So yeah, that's my answer is, I'm not doing the exact same strategy, I've just reduced it. So I'm still doing a little bit of link building, just not as aggressive, but I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is the content. So because I've got multiple sites at the moment, I'm not focusing as much as on that, but I am still creating 1 or 2 pieces of content per month, but like I said, ultra focused. If I wanted to spend a little bit more time on that, then what I would probably do is maybe look to remove some of those other pieces of content for now that are maybe conflicting, and kind of creating that broad range of topics. That's probably what I would suggest that you do. But I certainly don't think it's worth dropping a site completely, because I think most sites are recoverable. And actually at the moment you're seeing in Facebook groups and various SEO communities, you're seeing a lot of people that are trying to buy sites that have been hit, because they're going to pick up a bargain and they feel that they know how to revive it. So I think that kind of, you could take some inspiration from that maybe, or at least some direction. So next one from Diabetic Game Boy, Diabetic Game Guy, who I always like seeing your comments on the channel. Thanks for following. And his question is, if you were forced to start over, what would you do differently? That's a really difficult question, but I did actually put a video out on this where I said, what would I do if I was starting from scratch? And I'll be honest, probably not a lot. I don't think I would do a lot differently to what I've done in the journey that I had, except for maybe believing in it a little bit more and going and putting more effort in. And the reason I say that is because it wasn't until really my third site, or my third attempt at a site, that I really started to make any money from affiliate websites, niche websites. And if I'd have gone all in on those first two, not all in, but if I'd have put a lot more effort in, then I think I would have had more success. That being said, I learned a fair bit from those two sites that didn't really take off. And even my third site wasn't huge. That was on average about £400, or so probably $500 a month on average over a year. So it wasn't hugely successful, but I learned from it. And I think that's the key. Would I do anything else differently? Probably not. Focus on the content is the key. Link building, yes, that's important, but to begin with, it's all about the content and being super focused in on your particular niche. And the next one comes from Niche Site Lady. If you're not following her on Twitter, she's blowing up Twitter for the niche site community this year. Make sure you go and follow her. I'd like to know how and she's quite obsessed with the link building. I think she's quite interested in it secretly. She says, I'd like to know how you measure ROI with link building. You spend a lot. How do you make sure they're worth it? So yeah, I saw this question and I've not really given it too much thought, but my initial response is I probably don't really truly measure the ROI on each individual link that I build. However, what I do is have a good understanding of how much I'm spending on links for one particular site versus how much it's making. So to put that into context, I've just had in October my best month ever, which is nowhere near what you make, Niche Site Lady, but it was getting on for a 20k month in British pounds without VAT. So close to 20k. I typically spend about £2,000 a month on link building for all of my affiliate sites, so my whole portfolio, which probably isn't really a lot, and in terms of how much it's making, and bear in mind that that's being spread between about 8 sites right now. So the only real way in which I measure it is, okay, well that's 10x what it makes. So the £2,000 investment is almost being 10x'd in terms of the revenue. So I'm spending maybe just over 10% of my monthly income on link building. So, and I think that's a good ratio to have. Now at first, that's not possible. But what I do is I track each individual link and have it focused. So I have a spreadsheet that essentially it has the date that the link was built, it has the anchor text, it has the target keyword, and then where the link is coming from. And then I also, because I have that target keyword, I track the position that that keyword was in on the date that that link was built, or the date or when the link was ordered. So if I'm using a supplier, when the link was ordered. And then what I will do periodically, I will come back in and take a look. And typically that happens the next month when I'm looking to place another order, and I can just look and see where that is. So over time on my spreadsheet, I can see where the actual impact from a ranking point of view that link has had. And consistently, you build a link to that target keyword or to the page that you're targeting that specific keyword for, and it flies up, and that's how I do it. And they're typically very commercial type pages that I'm building these links to. So, and I'm getting a lot more into the data actually in terms of the tracking, and that's something else I'll be putting a video out about over the next few months, because I think that is something that I need to do more of. And I've had conversations with my affiliate manager, or one of my affiliate managers, and it's a game changer. I've started to implement it actually over the last 2 weeks, and just to see exactly where the revenues are coming from is really interesting. And I think that ties in to that question. So that's quite interesting. Right, we're getting through this. And the next question is a follow on to that, because that one came in on Twitter, and Ed Gold followed on that question by saying, also curious, for those who buy links, is there any surety is there any surety that they don't take your money and then remove the link next week? Genuine question. Okay, so Ed, the truthful answer here is no, generally not, if you are working directly with a website. And this is where you get a little bit more protection if you use a service. So 80-90% of the links that I build is through services that I pay for. So in that instance, if the link was removed, typically within 12 months, they will replace the link for me. Now, if you're working directly with a website, you don't really have that protection because it's just based on the relationship that you have with them. Now, to this date, I don't think I've ever had a link removed from a site where I've done the transaction myself with that person. Now, one of the issues could be is if they sold that site and the new owner decided to take the links down. Obviously, that's a risk. However, typically, if you're doing that transaction yourself, you're going to pay less than you are through a company that are doing it for you. So, yeah, it's a risk. It's not something that happens often in my experience. So, and again, obviously, do your due diligence. If it's a decent website, if it's a reputable website, it's got good traffic, decent stats, you're likely to be okay, I think, in most cases. Right, we're almost through this tea. So this is going to be the last question. And it's from Tight Fist Finance. I love that name, Tight Fist Finance. How are you managing content decay, and are you dealing with plateau? I think the question is, how are you managing content decay and dealing with traffic plateaus or declines? So, I'm not exactly 100% sure what you mean by content decay. I've heard that term before, so I hope I answer this question in the right way. To me, content decay would be where, over a period of time, that content declines in the SERPs, maybe because it's become outdated or just because over time that naturally happens. So the way to deal with that, and this is again something I've focused on a lot in the last month, and with one of my biggest sites, one of my big UK sites, is updating the content. And even just this week, and it's Wednesday, so I'm talking Monday, I went in and updated one specific article, and the stuff was already ranking on page 1. So I'd got 2 or 3 keywords. One was a best type keyword, and then there was also the variation of that keyword without best in it, which essentially would be an e-commerce type term. but both were on page 1, but they dropped towards the bottom of page 1. And I updated the content. I added a new product in position 1. I tweaked some of the others a little bit because there were products that were no longer in stock. They're just no longer manufactured. And immediately this week, so like I say, it's Wednesday today. Yesterday, both search terms have moved up, and today they've moved up again. And the e-commerce type keyword has moved from position 9 to position 4, and it's an 18,000 search volume per month keyword, and it's it's decent. You know, it's good value. So that is the best way, is to try and stay on top of content. And I think the traffic plateaus or declines are what come with that. So when obviously you know your rankings drop, you are going to see that plateau, or you are going to see that decline, and it's hard to go in and keep updating, but I think that's part of the nature of the game. Now obviously if you've got a site that has 500 pages, that's going to be hard to do, but I think if you can try and build that into your processes each month, then I think that's worthwhile doing. So for example, at the beginning of each month, I will I'll look at my links. So pretty much week 1 of each month, I'm looking at my links. Week 2 could be updating content. You know, so obviously it all depends on your processes, whether you're doing it yourself, whether you've got someone doing it, but it makes a difference. It really does. When to do it, if you can update each article every 6 months, I think that's enough in most cases. So yeah, guys, this tea is done. I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments. Let me know, did you like this format? Is it really boring just sitting and listening to me talk for 10, 15 minutes? I don't know, maybe 20 actually, looking at the time on the camera. But I quite enjoyed that. And hopefully it's not going to give me too much editing to do. Now, if you are wanting that perfect blog outline, then watch which way we're going. We'll go this way. Watch this video next, which was actually my last video, because I do talk about how to create, not the perfect blog outline, but a pretty good one. Okay, guys, thanks very much for watching, and good luck with your projects. Cheers.